Howdy ho and hello there neighbors. We are going to be doing a Mrs. K's Way video about ratios and the coordinate plane. Of course, my videos usually talk about the three things that we are going to mention in the video. The first thing is review of the coordinate plane. What is it and what does it mean? For the second thing, we're going to look at a ratio table we've been doing in class and seeing how to convert those to something called ordered pairs. And then last but not least, we are going to place those ordered pairs on a coordinate plane, kind of taking number 2 and number 1 and placing all together in step 3. In today's video, we are going to look at 3 different parts. We are going to do a very in-depth review of the coordinate plane. We're going to go over how to make ratio tables into ordered pairs, and then we're going to place those ordered pairs on the coordinate plane. So the first thing we want to remind ourselves is the coordinate plane. I have a small little coordinate plane over here in the corner, and it's not labeled, but I just want to remind ourselves of our previous understanding of the 4 different quadrants. Since we have 2 lines that intersect, we have 4 different spaces, and those are 4 different quadrants. We've remembered that we always start in the top right corner, since these are both our positive x and our positive y values. We have our second quadrant, third, and our fourth. Since we're using Roman numerals, it has a 1 and a V. We're going to talk about the first quadrant right here, and let's look to see what one looks like a little larger. When we're labeling our first quadrant, we have 2 different parts to it. The first part that we have is this bottom line right down here, the bottom portion. We remind ourselves that this is called the x-axis. We also call it our horizontal axis, which means that this axis goes from the left to the right or from side to side. Our other different part of the coordinate plane is the y-axis. And that happens to be this line that goes up and down. Since we're only talking about this first little quadrant up in the top right corner, we also know that since our x and our y-axis intersect at the bottom left corner, we call that something special. We call it the origin, and that's exactly where the 2 axes meet. That happens to be the exact coordinate every single time, which is going to be a x coordinate is 0 and a y coordinate is 0. Next, we're going to be talking about how we can find other coordinates within the coordinate plane. So in order to find different coordinates or different points in our coordinate plane, let's look at an example here. At a picnic, the ratio of guests that choose a hamburger to veggie burger is a ratio of 7:3. Now, when we're trying to figure out what this ratio is for, let's say, a larger amount of guests, we can make a ratio table. What we want to do here is we want to be able to have our 2 different parts of our table represent our ratio here. Whoops, our ratio right here. So let's see how that looks. So first I'm going to put my hamburgers, since that's the first part of my ratio, on the left side of the table, and I'm going to have veggie burgers on the right side of my table. Now if I want to be able to fill in the table accordingly, I'm going to be using my ratio of 7:3. So if we fill out the table, it will look like this. So my ratio table, if I have a ratio of 7:3, then I know that if I had 2 groups, it would be 4:6, and we've been filling those out recently in class. Now, in order to now make these different numbers in our ratio table into ordered pairs, we're going to be looking at all of our hamburgers as our x-axis, and our y is going to be veggie burgers. So I just color coordinated to help us like we did with the last side, knowing that anything in green is going to be our x values, and anything in the blue is our y values. This also happens to be because the x values come first and the y values come second. How we know how to create the ordered pair is because the ordered pair are the coordinates of a point written as x coordinate, y coordinate. So each of these, we now have an x and a y coordinate. So if we wanted to try to make an ordered pair for our first ratio, we would have the ratio of 7:3, and our ordered pair would be 7, 3. We want to put those around parentheses so that we know that they're points and we're not doing any operations with them. So let's see what the rest of the ordered pairs would look like. So our ratios would then turn into the coordinate pairs 14, 6, 21, 9, 28, 12, 35, 15, and any other future x and y coordinates that we would have on our ratio table. Now that we have our ordered pairs, graphing them on a coordinate plane is a breeze. So let's first remind ourselves of our different ratios that we had on our ratios, then we created a ratio table, and then we created ordered pairs. We want to remind ourselves that the first one happens to be our x coordinates, and our second part of our ordered pair is our y part of the coordinate. Now, to be able to graph these on a coordinate plane, there's 4 simple steps. First step is we start at the origin. So we want to find our origin 0, 0, and we're going to start here as our starting place. The second thing we're going to do is move in the x direction as many times as it tells us in our ratio or our ordered pair. So we start at 0, 0, and we're going to move all the way to 7. 2, 4, 6, 7. Then we're going to go up in the y direction as many times as it tells us in our ordered pair. So we're going to go up 3. So for here, we know that 3 is this first line. So then I'm going to go up 3. And then we're going to place our point, which happens to be at the area where the 7 and the 3 cross. So that's our first point, is 7, 3. Now let's see what all the rest of them will look like. Now I have my 4 other ordered pairs on our coordinate plane, and what we would notice is that every time we went over 7, we go up 3. If we go over another 7, from 7 to 14, we also have to go up 3. So this is showing that our ratio is still consistent, and as I increase my hamburgers by 7, I'm increasing my veggie burgers by 3. We could connect them using a line, but for now we're just going to keep them as dots, but I guess I can make a little dotted line to remind ourselves that this would keep going on forever and ever, as our ratio is always going to increase at the rate of 7 to 3. At the end of my videos, I always want to try to reward you with a sweet little picture of my puppy Callie. Now look at that little sweet face. This was actually the day that we decided to take Callie home, which was a year and a half ago. So she's very, very tiny, and if you keep watching my videos as the year goes on, you'll see a bunch more Callie pictures. Thanks so much for all your hard work, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.